everyone. My name is Lina, and this is my service learning project for 2025 at the College of Western Idaho. Our teacher is Miss Hillary Cobb, and the class is Social Work 101. Let's get into it. So for my service learning project, I decided to do the West Ada School District. They're actually a nonprofit organization, but the West Ada School District was looking for a couple people every day for summer until school started to pass out lunches to children ages 18 or younger and paying adults. So lunches were $5 if you were over the age of 18, and then we just encourage everyone to eat on site. The program for the Eagle site specifically has only been around for about 2 years, and the program entirely with the feeding sites for summer lunches has only been around for about 8 years. What did I do? So it was pretty straightforward. I set up, I passed out lunches, and then I helped put away. So I did Monday, Wednesday, Fridays for both June and July. Mondays was a really easy, super straightforward day. It was just PB&J, so there was no hot element. So it was just two lines down by where we set up the table, and then we would pass out the lunches and kiddos would eat. And that was for about an hour. And then Wednesdays, it was a corn dog. So we had one person pass out the hots and one person pass out the colds, and then we'd combine them together and hand them out to the kiddos. And then on Fridays, I would offer them if they wanted chocolate milk or white milk, and then depending on their answer, they would get that lunch. Obviously, if we ran out, then kiddos would not get what they wanted. But that's all right, because we kind of adjusted our numbers based on how many kids were coming, how many kids we think were coming. And then obviously Monday lunches were super easy to pass on throughout the week because they weren't something that required heating up, so they could be passed until they were done. And typically we ran out about Wednesdays. But for the signs, I also wanted to make mention that there was a Justice for All sign on the back of our lunch menu, and that's where the lunch menu is right there. And I thought it was super cool because the Justice for All sign basically declares that we will not discriminate based on race, gender, religion, any of those protected classes. And I thought that was really nice to have that as something that was mandatory to be posted, kind of like putting the safe space sticker on things. But yeah, so I learned that I love working with kids. As someone who struggles a little bit more to get out there and do things, I got to know the kids pretty well, and it was really good for me to get outside and be in the sun, more often throughout the summer. Typically I kind of just work and stay inside, so I found that I really do enjoy seeing kiddos, and that kind of forwarded me to continue doing this program even after the requirements for my service learning project would be met. I do, however, need to get more comfortable reaching out. I worked with the Salvation Army and the Boise Rescue Mission in the month of June, but in the month of July, I did not because I didn't reach out again to get more dates that they wanted help with, and so that kind of led to, I didn't get to help because I didn't reach out. And so I need to get more comfortable sending that email, talking to that person, replying to those messages, and kind of get out of my comfort zone with that. So that was definitely something interesting to learn about myself. But then again, I always knew that I kind of wanted to work with kids, but I'd always thought it would be the adolescent population. But since working with the little kids, especially at the Boise Rescue Mission for wounded children, I really think that I'd like to explore working with the little kids. This is a cool picture. I'll go over it after I talk about this. So how did it prep me to be a better social worker? So there's a few aspects. Obviously, I worked at multiple places, so there's a lot of things that I learned this summer that I probably wouldn't have if I hadn't worked at multiple volunteer sites. But for the Eagle site specifically, it kind of opened my eyes on how I need to get better, and not just better, but like how I need to get used to working with people who may have differing opinions than me, There was someone that was there that had a different opinion than me, and I didn't necessarily agree with what they were saying, and I said my piece and they said theirs. And we continued to work with each other even after the fact, and it was really good to see that, because typically I've had people who don't agree with me, friends even, who have decided to, keep their distance because they don't agree with the way that I think, and that's completely understandable. But I also have to recognize that where they're coming from is, isn't a bad thing. It's a valid opinion, whatever the opinion may be. And so just working well with others was something that it helped prep me for. And this one's kind of another one. The kiddos mumble a lot. I don't know if, some of my fellow peers here in this class are moms, but they mumble. And I can't understand what they're saying, and then they'll get, eventually you just kind of nod your head to make sure it's like, yeah, totally, I know what you're saying. I did not, and I need to get a little bit better at that kid speech, because they would say things sometimes, and I'd be like, yeah, that sounds great. Go ahead and enjoy your lunch. Let's have the next person come on up. And it was just, it was really cute, but at the same time, it is something that I could work on. But it did expose me to some things that I didn't really ever think would be a problem, Oh, also, for that picture that was on the previous slide, this picture is a continuation of that. One of the days there, Miss Liz set up for the firefighters to come. And I'll go back a slide for you. That yellow fire truck is supposed to be easier to see at night. But yeah, they passed out that day, and I thought it was really cool. She had me take some pictures of everyone. It was really nice. But why is the service learning component important? I saw a couple other people talking about fulfillment. It is about fulfillment, really. It's about doing something because you want to do it and not because you're, being forced to, or, even if you're being forced to, finding something that you genuinely enjoy. I found that I have a hard time working in groups. I have a hard time talking to large amounts of people. One-on-one, I do all right after I get over the initial awkward stage. But I found that it's just really important to learn what you're good at and what you like to do and what works for you. I have a hip problem, so finding a placement like this one where it was just a light table, or it was, just the box. It was a lot better on my hip, and that helped a lot. Whereas, like, at the Salvation Army or the Boise Rescue Mission, I was lifting, 50-pound containers. It was just a little harder on my hip. And then the large groups of people, again, but having just one other person that I was serving with, and then obviously the little kids, took a lot of strain off, because kids are a lot of fun. But the fulfillment aspect is definitely important. It helps us recognize, what we enjoy doing, but then also in that fulfillment, we find our long-term potential placements. So, like I said before, I had always thought that I would work with, adolescents going on to adulthood, because I was a kid that essentially aged out of the foster care system. And so I wanted to work with other individuals who had gone through what I had gone through and kind of meet them at that pivotal point. But working with the little kids, I think, especially with the mothers at the women's and children's facility, I think I could definitely see myself working there in the future. These are my references. So it's the West Ada Nutrition Services for their Facebook page, which is where I got the information of, how long they've been there. That and just word of mouth, so talking to the people who ran the program and packed the lunches. And then the West Ada Education Foundation, that's their nonprofit. So if you want to learn more about them and what they do, it's basically just, the school system that many of us grew up in. That's who funds us. So, yeah, thank you so much for taking a look, and y'all enjoy. Have a good rest of your summer.